Okay, I think we'll get started. So today we're going to talk about color and dispersion. And so we've talked about index of refraction, but we haven't mentioned so much that the index of refraction is actually a function of the color or the wavelength. It's a fairly weak function, so it's fairly flat, but it is significant enough that we can take advantage of it to disperse colors based on how much they diffract based on the index of refraction and Snell's law. So blue light here and red light here, 400 to 700 nanometers. Based on this, then, we'll say blue light moves more slowly through material than red light. And so if this hits water, glass, whatever, anything clear generally has this behavior. The blue light will pass through a little slower than the red light because it has a larger index of refraction, and we know that the velocity is the speed of light over the index of refraction. So when this is larger, that velocity will be slower. And then if we're coming from, say, air into glass or water or anything clear again, the blue light will refract further because the n value is larger, and so it will deviate more substantially from the ray coming from light than the red light will. Okay, so let's look at some typical values here and do an example. So for a typical glass, we know that the index of refraction we've been using is about 1.5, but that depends on the color. And we can see here, there's about a change of about almost 0.1 in the index of refraction. So maybe we're like 8% or something like that, 7-8% change as we go from blue to red. So again, as we're coming through glass, we have let's say we're coming into the glass with an incident angle theta 1. Then the blue will have an angle theta blue, let's say. This color here, this would be green right here, that would have theta green, and then the other end of the rainbow would have theta red. And we know that as we pass from the lower index to the higher index of refraction, the light is bent towards the normal, So here's our normal. Here's the ray if there was no difference in index of refraction. Red light bends less, blue light bends more as we hit that interface and enter that substance. Now let's consider an example here. So let's say this incident light is coming in at 30 degrees. Well, then we're going to use Snell's law, and we're going to solve for the unknown angle. We're going to figure out what the angle is for red and blue. Right, so we manipulate our equation. We'll take the ratio of the ends, n1 over n2. Then this sine theta 1 just comes along for the ride. So we bring this over here, n1 over n2, and then the sine theta 1 is still there. Now we'd be left with just sine theta 2 on the right hand side. And so to undo the sine, we take the inverse sine or the arc sine. So we'd have arc sine of n1 over n2 theta 1, and that's just algebraic manipulation of Snell's law. All right, well, let's plug in the numbers for blue. So 400, red 700. We have different indices of refraction. Air is the same. So air technically has a very small index of refraction, and technically it's different for red and blue, but that's out to the 4th or 5th significant digit. So we can just take, as always, air to be 1, and then the indices of refraction being the typical values for glass here, 1.57 and 1.48. And then you should check this on your calculator and see if we get 18.57 and 19.75 degrees. Okay, what are these degrees? These are the refracted angle measured relative to the normal. So light is coming in at 30 degrees here, so this would be 30 degrees here. And then this angle here, this would be the 18.57. And this angle here, from here to the red, would be the 19.75. This picture is very exaggerated. These would be quite close together, just about 1 degree apart, a little over 1 degree apart. And so the whole rainbow then would fit in between the red and the blue. So the green would be somewhere in between these angles. So maybe you can try, as a practice, work out the angle for green. All right, well, how do we take advantage of this then to act to separate colors? So we've already learned about gratings, so transmission and reflective gratings, and that's one way to separate colors, and we've seen that in many instruments used in chemistry and physics. Gratings are what's used to separate colors. But we can also use something called a dispersing prism, or a 60-degree prism. This is an equilateral triangular prism, so just a thick triangle, enough thickness there for us to send light through. And it's equilateral, so the angles are all 60 degrees. And let's look at the geometry now. What happens to these rays as we pass white light in? So let's say this is sitting flat here. We'll bring our light in parallel to the base of this triangle. Then our normal, right, is always normal to the surface, the incident surface, right? So that's this 90 degrees here. Right? That's what it means to be the normal, 90 degrees. And so our incoming ray, if it were not refracted at all, would be here. And whatever this angle is, we'll call that theta 1, right? That would be theta 1. But because the glass now has a higher index of refraction, we're going to be bent towards the normal, but the blue will be bent more than the red. So they will start to separate. It'll separate. Now let's hit the other side, and this is the cleverness of this design, is that the normals are now facing this way, right? And so let's just track the path of the red. Now the red is coming in here. Here's the normal, right? This would be if there was no refraction. But now what are we doing? We're going from glass to the air, so we're going to move away from that normal. So if there was no difference in index of refraction, then we have to move down. And so our red light comes out, again, more refracted downward. Now let's trace the blue. So the blue had been bent a little further down this way, right? So it's going to hit at a different spot on the other side of that prism. So we have to draw a separate normal there, right here. And then again, if this were the ray without any index of refraction, we have to bend even further from that, because again, we're going from high index of refraction glass out into air, so we bend further from the normal. And here's the key thing. The blue is going from an even higher index of refraction than the red, because for blue, the index of refraction is higher than red. So the effect will be more for the blue than for the red. So it'll bend away more than the red. So these were already separated after the first dispersion. now they're separated even further after the second dispersion. And then if this propagates, depending on how far this propagates, if we propagate that against the wall or a white sheet of paper, then we would see the rainbow of colors distributed through there. And then what we can do, if we want, if this is in an instrument, we could put a little pinhole here, and only maybe that yellow light would pass through wherever we place that pinhole. So it would be a way to take white light in and get a narrow band of colors coming out. Be one use of it. Another thing is we could, instead of putting this here, we could just display it across a camera, and then we could pick up the different color, the intensities of the different colors. So let's say this is some incoming light that we have some source that we're interested in. If we disperse that across a camera, just like the camera chips in our phones, then if it's got a lot of blue, then this will show up brighter than if it, say, has not so much orange or something like that. So we can get the color spectrum of an incoming sample this way. All right, well, let's look at another situation, and that'd be of a spherical, say, piece of glass, or in connection to rainbows, a spherical droplet of water. So this droplet, even though it's small, is still much, much bigger than the wavelength of light, so we can still use our ray optics here. Now, if that were to get super small, then we'd have to start talking about waves again. But these are still much bigger than the wavelength of light. Now, let's see what happens here. We've got this round surface, and our white light comes in right here. So we have to draw a normal right at the point where it hits. Right? And because that's curved, that'll be whatever would be, we'd imagine taking a tangent line or a tangent plane right at that point, and then the normal is 90 degrees to that. Okay. Well, again, this is how the light would propagate if there was no difference of index of refraction between air and the water, but there is. So that's going to bend towards the normal. So here's our normal here, extended into the droplet. The red will bend towards the normal. And the blue will bend even further because, again, this isn't glass, but it's water, and water would behave similarly. So the blue will have a larger index of refraction than the red. Okay, well, most of that will just pass through the other side. Most of that will just pass through the other side. But as we know, our rule of thumb is about 5% of light reflects off of any kind of surface that changes the index of refraction. So now we have to think of this as hitting a mirror here. And I'll try to exaggerate this a little bit. If we draw the tangent planes, that would be, this is like a concave. We could think of it sort of as a concave mirror, but we're hitting, wherever we hit, we would draw a straight tangent, and then our angle of reflection would be equal to the angle of incidence across this line. So if I were to draw a normal here, then our reflective angle is equal to our incident angle for reflections. This is not Snell's law or dispersion now. This is reflection off the back surface of this sphere. Now, because this has not dropped as much, see where it's hit, the important thing is this curve here. It hasn't dropped as much, so this mirror is more straight up, and then the blue has dropped more, so that's started to curve around under. So when this reflects, the blue will be kicked up above the red, so they crisscross here. The red will be shot down below the blue. Okay? Now, it turns out that this is really angle dependent on these angles in terms of the reflection. So we know we've talked about total internal reflection, so we can actually get much more than 5% reflection. We don't get total internal reflection here, but we can get significantly more than 5% at certain angles. And so there's an optimal angle for each color of light that comes out. And so that will be the brightest. And so let's see how this develops itself into a rainbow that we would see from the ground. So if we're here on the ground and we're looking up in this direction, and here's the sunlight, so the sun has to be behind our back and shining onto the droplets of water. And so this is why we see oftentimes when we have rain come through and a rain cloud goes past us, then the sun behind us will illuminate that cloud. And the sun, of course, the rays are parallel, right? Because the sun is so far away. Rays are all coming in parallel, bathing the earth. So they hit that entire cloud, right? And so every droplet along here, right, along this vertical direction, will have some particular angle. Okay? But as we said here, there is optimal angles for which we get the brightest colors coming out. And it turns out that if we look up this way, it's about 42 degrees above the horizon, or 40 to 42 degrees above the horizon, and that's where it's the brightest. So if we look up in that direction, we see red coming from one strata, right? Because the red angle is this angle. See, the red angle is a sharper angle. So the red angle coming from a higher strata, and then the blue coming from a lower strata. So the optimal angle for red is stronger and blue is weaker. And I think that ranges, I might be forgetting this, but I think it's red is 42 degrees and blue is 40 degrees or something like that, close to that. So as we look up there, the light stratifies red to blue and then the whole rainbow in between, and that's what becomes the rainbow. So if we're looking straight up this way, then we see red on top and blue on the bottom. So that's why red's on top and blue's on the bottom. Now, why is it rounded? Well, we have to think about the angle at which we're looking. So the optimal angle here, if we're looking, the sun's straight behind us, the optimal angle here would be like this. But if we're also over here, then our angle is too severe. So it has to arc downward. And just imagine, like, if we're looking way over here, then we can get that same angle and the strata is very near the ground. And so if we're lucky enough to be in a flat surface, we can, in principle, see a whole arc. Now, if the Earth wasn't in the way, then we would see a whole circle, and that circle would be this cone at this angle. It's like 40 to 42 degree angle. But of course, it runs into the grounds, right? And that's where the leprechauns are, and their pots of gold on either side. So that's how the rainbows are produced. And it's a consequence of the fact that water has a different index of refraction for blue than for red. All right, so this covers this material. And so do a little practice here with Snell's law and the different units of refraction. Convince yourself, this is in terms of the physical concepts, really important, convince yourself of this picture and redraw it a couple of times to make sure that you really understand it. And then try to apply it in situations like a dispersing prism or a rainbow. And if you can understand that, then you've got this down pretty well.